Salzberg. Carefully set the chair, but I'm going to move it over to talk to you guys. So this is a very special panel that we were able to assemble. These three men are probably doing more to revolutionize and change how we eat in our homes than anyone else. Right now, we have Jason Ackerman, CEO of FreshDirect, Matt Maloney, CEO of Grubhub, and another Matt Salzberg, who's the CEO of Blue Apron. Thanks for coming. So you all are changing how we cook and eat at home, right? Let's start with you. You guys you've been 14 years, FreshDirect?
14 years, yeah.
12 years, yep. Right? So these guys are old veterans of this game, and you're 4 years old, you're the baby.
Yeah.
So you're selling certainly more than 8 million meals a month. You're putting 8 million meals a month into people's homes. More than that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the last number that we publicly released was 8 million meals a month.
Release another one now.
You know, the problem with releasing your numbers every week is that there's an insatiable appetite for more and more numbers.
Right.
So you can never really win in that game. But, you know, we're bigger than 8 million meals a month now and still growing, and we're happy with that.
Right. Why do people want to cook from a box at their house?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, you know, we've obviously heard a lot in this conference about the need to cook at home and the desire for people and the interest for people in cooking at home. And honestly, between celebrity chefs and farmers as, you know, rock stars, and we've heard a lot about that here, but it's really hard still to cook at home. And, you know, initially when we started the company, the idea came from a personal need, which was we wanted to cook at home, but we found it expensive, difficult to do, and inaccessible. And so, you know, if you can bring that together for a customer, make it really easy for them to cook at home, they actually really do enjoy the experience. They get to learn new things, try new foods, and also, by the way, because of our model, we're able to make it more affordable for folks as well.
All right. Now, this meal kit thing, we may have to try that. I don't know. Sam, are we? No. You can buy them downstairs, our New York Times. These are the ones that Martha Stewart said, they're fine. It was like, oh, anyway, God bless. Okay, so let's talk about FreshDirect, because you started by, and I remember when you started in New York, we thought, who's going to want somebody else to pick their tomatoes for them? You know, we just heard about picking tomatoes. Why did it occur to you that maybe people would want someone else to shop for them?
Well, we actually started from the premise that we could deliver better quality food, more direct from the farm to the consumer, and get it faster to give a better fresh experience. We actually had no idea if people would buy it online, like, would you actually let us pick out your fish? And that was a big question for us. But we felt like if we could work the supply chain to deliver a superior product, because we can get it in half the time and better cold chain management, that people recognize quality, and if they have that positive experience, they would do it. So we just gave tens of millions of dollars of free food just to get you to try it, and if it was a positive experience, you would keep going, and that kind of worked out.
And you guys are deep. You have a lot of foragers. You're a lot of people who pick the stuff, and in fact, we were talking about lamb, for example. You couldn't find a quality lamb that you wanted, so now you're going back into you're hiring lamb farmers, essentially, right? Lamb ranchers.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. So there's a lot of consumer trends where people wanted to eat grass-fed or other products, but it doesn't mean the farmers are willing to grow it, because if they can't sell it, then they're not going to commit, because they can lose a lot of money. So we're matching up a lot of these consumer trends, and we're going to the farmers saying, look, we want to commit to your whole field, grow this, we already commit to a price to buy the whole lamb, and then we can bring a product like a grass-fed lamb to market, where the farmers, they actually weren't willing to grow it unless we committed, and now we can match up consumer demand with supply and creating a bigger market for healthier food.
And you all just got a big round of funding this week, 189 million?
189 million, that's correct.
Right. And you all you're looking at an IPO, correct, that is in the billions, possibly?
Well,
3 billion?
You know, look, there's rumors and stuff out there, which are rumors.
Yeah.
And, you know, the only thing I have to say on that.
Rumors are my business, kid.
Yeah. The truth is we get asked that question every 3 months.
Yeah.
And we've been asked that question every 3 months since we started the company, actually.
Okay.
And you know, the true answer is, of course, since the day I incorporated the company, we've aspired to be the kind of company that could someday be a public company. And so, you know, routinely we've been working on building a company of that caliber.
So the press report's about 3 billion. That wasn't a solid number?
I have no idea where that came from. That's, yeah,
okay,
honestly.
see how he does that? This is
trained
why these
well.
guys
I
are
like
good.
that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about restaurant delivery, which is what you do with Grubhub. And that is fascinating to me, because you're taking one of what I always think of the essential piece of a restaurant, which is the service and the atmosphere, and you're allowing people to have that experience at home. So you found out, then this is beyond takeout. I'm like, oh, Chinese takeout, they do it. But you're actually in a situation where people are building restaurants that are solely, they're not virtual restaurants exactly, I think dark restaurants, I know we don't like that term, but they're restaurants that are just built to deliver at home. Is that still a restaurant?
It's absolutely a restaurant. So if you think about the value that we provide, it's taking the technology and building a platform so that restaurants can extend themselves. It increases their efficiency, it increases their reach, and that's what restaurateurs really want. And that's frankly what diners really want. And so there's this whole swath of the population that has realized that they can control their life via their mobile phones, via apps, and they want to engage with their local restaurants, and they want to eat at their home, and they want the convenience of that. I think it was it Sam who said earlier, they get inspired by a cookbook, then they order on Seamless. Well, that's Grubhub and Seamless are the same company, and it's a staple of New York life. And so first we went around aggregating the diners and building this mass of transactions, and we're processing like $2.5 billion worth of food this year across the country. We're in every major city, and it's really a force of demand. And so now we're working with restaurants to figure out how do we take that demand and how do we parlay it into something that's more interesting for them and it's more accessible. And so you have restaurateurs, like you said, that had realized that when they get 250 orders a night, it's really hard to execute table service because their kitchen staff is totally stressed. There's a prioritization of in-house versus delivery. Frankly, you want the delivery to go out faster, so the food's in better condition, and you want the in-house diners to drink more wine. And so there's this prioritization they're trying to figure out. And I work with restaurants to help them do this better. And so what you just said, the concept of virtual restaurants is really where restaurants are going to, and it's where I see the industry transforming into the next 5 to 10 years. I'm seeing it in New York, LA, San Francisco predominantly right now, but I'm working with restaurant groups in Philly, in Chicago, in Boston, in DC about, if you're a restaurant organization that has 6 concepts already, and they're all different concepts and menus, and you're thinking about your 7th, do you want to go with a brand new menu, a brand new brand, or do you want to build a subterranean commissary kitchen that can execute dishes from all of them at the same time without stressing the kitchen staffs of your existing kitchens and execute a much further delivery radius because Grubhub has aggregated so many diners that are craving your brands at home.
Right. And this brings up the interesting question too. We were like, so when I get my food at home, delivery food I feel like is never as good as eating in the restaurant, right? But you are working with folks on dishes that can be delivered at home and reheated in packaging that works well and quickly, right? So am I going to get a restaurant quality meal at home? I mean,
we're still working there. I mean, the reality is restaurant food isn't as good at home currently because it's cooked in the restaurant and delivered for 25, 30 minutes. And it was never meant to do that. It was meant to go from the kitchen to your table, and it was meant to be eaten. Right. So salads are just as good at home as they are in the restaurant. Sushi is just as good. The fried shrimp or the fried chicken or some of the other items that or any time that's steamed, like French fries aren't going to make it. And so we're working with restaurants to define delivery menus. Because the menu, we think about a physical restaurant and then the virtual restaurant. And it could be the same brand, but the dishes don't have to be the same. The menu doesn't have to be
This is like room service at a good hotel. They'll have very different menus in the same.
Exactly. It could be different. It could be a subset of your menu. It could be an entirely different item. You could use the online transaction to test out new menu items to see how they work, and then bring them back into the in-house.
Do you all consider yourselves food companies or tech companies?
Both.
Tell me about that.
Well, so when we started our business, since we knew we had to build huge supply and it was really about food, so I hired around 30 food professionals, and that was the first group of people that we hired. We had chefs and butchers and guys out of the meat market and the produce market, so it really started with food. But then you've got to use technology to enable that right user experience, and we're also a manufacturer, so we have a huge amount of technology end-to-end and last-mile distribution. So the tech guys think we're a tech company, the food guys think we're a food company, but the truth is we're all of that.
All right. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for us. And when we talk to folks, no one really knows what kind of category to put us in because we really are all of those things. We're part food manufacturer, part agricultural company, part consumer internet company, part direct marketer, and part culinary company. And so, to be honest, one of the things I think we've done really well is we've brought together the best people from each of these different categories of industries into one place. And you really need that kind of diverse expertise at a company like ours to be able to scale what we do. Some of our most cutting edge, exciting things are on the agricultural side, you know, and our internet marketing, our internet relationship with our customers is what really fuels our ability to drive change in our agricultural activities and projects. So things like, you know, I heard another panelist speaking about how you can use consumer tastes to drive sustainability, you know, and because we're a curator of content through our internet experience and through our model, we can actually drive the right distribution of products to get more sustainable results from suppliers.
So you guys are disrupting the farming system in a way, and in the way that Whole Foods had when they would start to partner with growers. That was kind of revolutionary, and then these guys who were doing grass-fed beef could actually make a living, and they had a direct line. You're doing the same thing, and you are too, I think, with, you know, the lamb farmers. But so that comes with certain responsibilities. So do you corporately go, you know, obviously consumers want certain things that taste a certain way and that are sort of, you know, either sustainable.
We're a heavily curated product, right? And it's actually very different than, I think the Kroger C.E.O. was talking about this, and then any other grocery business, on-demand business, you know, infinite choice business. We're heavily curated. And that is interesting because it gives us a different moral responsibility as a company to select in some ways what our customers are getting, rather than being a grocery store and having our customers come into our store, look at thousands of items, and then vote for specifically what exactly values they care about in everything we do. And so we actually spend a lot of time in our company thinking about what kind of practices we want to support and how we can be better than the grocery store, right? One of the key parts of our vision as a company is how we build a better food system, and that's about being better than a grocery store on quality, value, cost, and sustainability. And so we can use our ability to curate, drive great taste to drive these great outcomes on all three of those elements. And, you know, for instance, we spend a lot of time sending agroecologists to farms around the country that we're working directly with, and doing things like improving their practices, you know, improving their yields, improving their quality, improving their environmental impact.
Right, and you've also got to control that supply chain, because if you know, your Arctic char burgers make 12 people sick or 20 people sick, or you've got to, so do you control that supply chain start to finish in the way that, you know, that a major food production company does?
We do in many cases, and in most cases. We don't buy every little thing ever, you know, direct today. We're a 4-year-old company. We are mostly direct on stuff that's being grown just for us.
Yeah.
And we are increasingly moving towards 100% direct.
Right.
We're a 4-year-old company and making good progress there. But on the food safety side, I mean, we routinely are sending folks to farms around the country, to our different suppliers, because we don't just work with vegetables. Right. We work with a wide variety of things and doing food safety audits and audits in our centers and the like.
And you've had to also change, I mean, you've changed how FedEx and UPS do their cold chain, right? I mean, you actually go to the UPS. You're so big that these guys want to change their business model to help you, right?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a misnomer that we only ship with FedEx, because we don't. You know, a lot of people think that Blue Apron FedExes food all over the country, and
there's horseback, of course.
We don't use horseback yet, but maybe that's an opportunity for us.
Martha Stewart just went, horseback delivery. This is brilliant. I'm going to do that. So.
Hi, Martha. Horseback delivery would definitely add a style point to the way that we deliver to folks. I wish we could do that. Yeah. But, you know, we actually work in a very diverse, we have an internal logistics team that coordinates the way we ship to every zip code in America the most efficient way possible. And we actually work in a pretty complex way to do that. FedEx is the minority of our outbound shipping.
Really, what's your number one outbound shipping?
I don't want to list all the companies, but we actually work with a bunch of different regional companies and
local
companies.
It's that last mile issue, right?
On the last mile, and we work with a variety of different trucking services on the first mile.
And how about you? You're in a different situation. You've got trucks. I think we were talking about if you've sold a bunch of specialty oranges to people expecting to be there the next morning, and the truck is stuck on the Triborough Bridge. Like, so you're in the trucking game, really, right?
Well, among many, that's right. So, you know, we often will sell virtual inventory. So, for example, if the start of the Alaskan season, our guys will be out in Alaska on the boats, and they'll be, you know, making sure what the first catch is. And so if they're on the boats and we say, okay, we can get, you know, 10,000 pounds, you know, it's going to be caught on Thursday, but the run doesn't happen on Thursday, it kind of doesn't pick up until Friday.
Nature.
We've already sold, right? You can't control these fish. Yeah. We've already sold it on the internet, and we're saying this is when they get delivered. So the food's pre-sold, and it literally comes in and goes out. And so getting that timing right, that balance between the ultimate freshness and making sure that that supply works, keeps you up a
Right.
lot.
What percentage are you refunding people? Like when you're like, sorry, your fish didn't come, your dinner party's ruined, here's 2 weeks free of FreshDirect. Is that how that works? Or
What?
just an idea. Consumer feedback.
Oh, that, yeah.
Okay.
We give about a half a point of credits, but we have a 100% money back guarantee, anything asked. And so anytime a customer complains, a customer.
What's your return rate?
It's 0.5%.
Really?
Yeah, but it's a 100% guarantee policy. And you have to because they're not touching it, feeling it. And it's not just quality. It could be a different size, or we gave this filet mignon and she ordered it tied because, we hand wrap it with bacon and tie it because she asked us to, and then the butcher forgot to tie it and whatever. And so she got all upset. And so we're like, okay, take it for free. And that's
True story?
That's a true story.
Okay, there you go. Now you rely on, I'm imagining, the guys who didn't want to drive Uber want to drive for you. Are they the same people, the same drivers, or what's your delivery method?
The majority of our businesses, the restaurants are delivering themselves.
Okay.
So, like I said earlier, we drive demand for restaurants. We help augment their marketing and their technology arms. Restaurants, Seamless forever was reliant upon New York's restaurants doing their own delivery. So was Grubhub. We do a lot of pickup. And then recently we started doing our own delivery. So it's less than 10%.
Do you think that's the future for you, your own delivery, having your own fleet?
But the reality is we can do it a lot cheaper than a restaurant can. And so in our kind of quest to extend and make restaurants more efficient, like I can do it dramatically cheaper than the independent restaurateur can. I'm the one who's going to manage those shifts. I'm going to make sure that I have my logistics and my GPS tracking all in line, and we do it really well. Right. And so it's about 10% of our business now, and it's growing incredibly fast.
So the future for you is your own fleet of delivery, like taking over.
Well, that's the present for us right now. Right. The future is extending beyond all the tier 1, tier 2 markets and going into the tier 3 college towns and really providing that breadth of service across the country, because with more scale you get more efficient. Right. And so we've become more of a logistics provider, but still not to the degree that these guys are.
Yeah. And for you, the future, we talked about the Instacart, the pressure from that fast grocery delivery, and I know you all now have what you call dark stores, which are going to be within an hour time.
That's right.
Is it called FreshDirect Kick?
Food Kick.
Food Kick. So I can, in an hour, go, oh God, I need cat food, I need beer, and I need some good tomatoes, and there are basically groceries. Well, my life is sad some days. Like,
very demanding cat you have.
Is this like a tough room? They're like, my drunk cat needs some beer. So you have stores that basically have people in there curating, and so I call up, and so they run into the store doesn't have customers, but it's like a store essentially. Run in, grab the stuff, and they get it in an hour. That's the future for you all?
Yeah, definitely.
Quick delivery, fast.
You look at the offline behavior, and people do the plan trip. You drive to the store, you do a big shot for the week, and you fill it up, and then you run out of stuff, and you have this kind of instant, what am I having for dinner tonight? So we realized that more than half the market is consuming food or shopping where the consumption is less than 24 hours of when you actually made the trip. So that short trip is actually really important. So we built Food Kick to satisfy that part of the marketplace for all the fill-in. And we also find the products that people are buying with that 1 hour consumption is different than necessarily the planned trip, which also gives us an opportunity to curate, every day part, because you're buying different things on Friday night than you're buying things on Saturday morning.
Right. And real quick, we're going to go to questions. But so what's now 8 million? What's the future for you? You're going to, and people want stuff. It is a little tricky to order from you all. So, I've got to figure out my 3 meals, and are they coming on Thursday, and do I want the 2? And then the waste issue. So talk to us.
Well, I'll tell you a couple things about that. So first off, one of the really interesting differences between Blue Apron and this whole concept of on-demand is that we are not on-demand. We are a regular scheduled weekly delivery. And that's for something.
You're the milkman. You're like, boom.
For items like cold, fresh ingredients that you're putting in your fridge and cooking at your convenience over the course of the week, the average person doesn't need that on demand, like they absolutely need hot food on demand or they need beer on demand, And it's just different ingredients. And because we play in that space, we can be a regular scheduled weekly delivery, which is one of the key things that allows us to drive costs down, up and down our supply chain. And a lot of people, there's another great comment earlier in the conference about this, which is, how can you as a retailer provide more demand visibility to me as a farmer or to me as a fulfillment center worker or a delivery partner? And this ability to have regular planned weekly deliveries as part of our business model is one of the reasons we can manage a perishable supply chain extremely cost effectively in what is otherwise a very wasteful industry. And we've actually, there's a really cool article that just came out about us on a study we did. We hired this company, BSR, which is a really well-known environmental consulting and sustainability firm. And they measured, we didn't tell them what to do, they measured our supply chain waste versus a grocery store supply chain waste. And Blue Apron actually wastes 62% less food than an average grocery store because of the way that our model's set up, because we don't have to hold perishable inventory, and we don't have to put perishable inventory on a shelf and hope that somebody shows up to buy it from us before it goes bad, which is just a god-awful way to manage such important, precious products.
Right.
So,
and I think that's a piece that people don't understand when they get their big box and are trying to ship back the gel packs, and it's like you think, oh, this feels wasteful. When you pick that pepper up off there's a huge amount of waste that goes behind that pepper at the grocery. If you've ever seen packaging and waste come in, the transportation for that pepper, the waste of the ones that didn't make it. So,
yeah, it's a gigantic problem.
Right.
You know, and it's a big public policy problem. The government's really trying to tackle this, to their credit. But you know, private business can do a lot here, and the grocery model is just fundamentally a very wasteful one when it comes to very perishable items. And so we think part of the reason that we really believe in our model is that what it allows us to do is unlock value in a perishable supply chain to the benefit of consumers with lower prices, to benefit of farmers making a better margin, and benefit of us. And so that model, we think, really allows us to build a better food system, which is a key part of our vision.
I know a lot of people have questions, so we're going to start here and then we'll go there, and you guys over there. Yes, go ahead. And just quick as we can for questions so we can get a lot of information.
Hi, I know, Matt, you said that with more scale comes more efficiency. I'm wondering how all of you players are worried about the competitive landscape in terms of Uber Eats and the possible extensions that's going to be.
Okay, competition.
So for all the noise that Uber is making in the world, I think their Eats program is extraordinarily small. I think they're in 10 markets with less than 100 restaurants per market. The reality is the efficiency that we are at, and most players of scale are at, are already pushing the boundaries of current technology. So you can't actually get better than GPS fences around the restaurants and the location where you're going, so you automatically know where they are. You can do routing, you can do auto dispatch, but all this is done, and that's kind of par for the course in terms of contemporary logistics programs. So all of the noise about, you know, we're faster because we have 1 billion drivers is kind of bogus, because everyone's got enough drivers to hit those efficiency gains, and it's kind of not that big a deal.
Uber no bueno. Okay.
My question is for Blue Apron, and with the taste palette and serving 8 million meals a month, how can you explore and diversify what you're offering and serve to the lowest common denominator?
It's a good question. So you have, you know, an Indian family or a Cuban family, and they have a certain palate, and then you have, you know, Judith Jones, you know, who's got a whole different.
Well, look, we do offer
palate.
Customers choice. You know, when I say we're regular planned weekly delivery, that's true, but every week we release 10 recipes, and our customers can pick recipes that suit them. It's partly our responsibility to understand those preferences, and because we have a direct relationship with them through an internet connection and a mobile app, we really get to know your preferences very well. We also just have a great team of basically culinary artists. I mean, we have our head of our culinary department, well, my co-founder is right here, Matt Wadiak, who's been a chef his whole career, and our director of culinary is actually a Blue Hill at Stonebarns alum, Chris Sorensen. And so, and we have great talent in our culinary department whose job it is to use that feedback from customers, but also invent and create and help drive tastes, not just react to tastes. We're a product company in a lot of ways. We're curating culinary experiences. You know, at the dinner last night, Dan Barber mentioned we're growing honey nut squash, you know, and we loved honey nut squash, and we're making that available to people in a mass way. Most people probably never tried that before. So, you know, we don't go towards the lowest common denominator. What we're trying to do is elevate everything by making it accessible, designing these great experiences around supply chain efficiencies, and just creating better outcomes for folks. And so, you know, that key piece of menu design is one of the things that allows you to tie everything together in a sustainable and cost-effective way. That's also fun.
Do you worry about class? Like, is this affordable for a lower or middle class family?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, part of our mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone, and everyone is a key word there. So, You know, we think that food is something that everyone should have access to, and everyone should be able to eat at home, the kind of food that we were able to eat here last night.
Do you worry about price point at FreshDirect? I mean,
Yeah, there's
are you
always
worried
a
about,
relationship.
is there a way to, Whole Foods did the 365 kind of, I mean, is there a place where you're trying to get to people who maybe don't have as much money to spend on food? Or
Well, you realize that there's always a good, better, best strategy in retailing, and that different customers place. There are customers would place a heavier emphasis on wellness or certain ingredients, and the other customers are trying to consume calories for a certain price. So as a retailer with a broad selection of stuff, it's really about trying to create value at each one of those levels, and so you got to have the range.
No, I'm going to keep blowing out with a couple questions. Is it okay if I go with a couple more, guys? No one's even nodding. I'm going to do it. Go ahead.
Hi. So a few years ago, when my children were a bit younger and we were living in New York City, they're about 4 or 5 years old, I asked them where they thought their food comes from. They readily answered the FreshDirect man. So, of course, that as a parent becomes my conversation. But do you think that you, Jason, and horse riding Matt, have any kind of possible role to play in connecting consumers or eaters with the farm, or is that just not your game?
No, I think it's actually our responsibility to do
Yeah,
that.
and I think you had talked about that's that moral
Yeah. responsibility
to.
We do, and we routinely, because FreshDirect I'm sure does this too, because you have this direct connection to a customer through the internet, you can merchandise and talk about your farmers really well and tell the stories of your supply chain.
Yeah, go ahead, right here.
So how soon before you can deliver Grubhub meals by drone and FreshDirect with driverless trucks?
Yeah, good question.
You want to handle the drone one first?
Y'all up in the drone?
Yeah. Drones are very, very far in the future for everyone, especially for hot food. I think for packages, it's a little bit closer.
That's a good point.
Because
Those fries really are not going to last on the drone.
you have to think about takeoff and landing when you're thinking about drones, because the in-between will be resolved, but your typical quick serve independent restaurant, they're not going to have a drone pad on the roof where they can kind of shuttle a drone up. And then how do you deliver it, to the 17th floor in a Manhattan apartment? Like, do you open a window? Like, do you shine a bat beacon? So there's some logistics there that need to be resolved.
You can't even get him to stop using the clamshell at the restaurants, buddy, but
Exactly.
we'll work on it.
I'll focus on the clamshell, then I'll do drone.
Right, so it's drone and driverless cars, which,
The issue with ultimately home
Driverless
delivery, you can,
trucks.
if a customer gets into a driverless car, that's one thing. But when you have to take 100 pounds of food and actually, the customer part of it is they don't want to carry it themselves either. So,
need the driver.
there's still a role for how to get it from the car to the kitchen, and can solve that, with a robot. Maybe we might be able to figure that out.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I love Blue Apron. I want to tell you that.
Thank you.
I also
Thanks,
provide,
Mom. Oh, is that
no,
not
no.
your mom?
I've never met
I also provide hot meals on the streets of San Antonio for people who live on the street. What I would love for you guys to do, I know you're only a 4-year-old company, but have you ever considered, in San Antonio, 1 out of 4 children go to bed hungry. Have you ever considered doing like a Tom's shoe model? Buy a pair of shoes, buy a Blue Apron, and you all will deliver
around the
one
street.
to a poor
Yeah.
child.
Brilliant
on
idea.
West
We
Side.
When are you
have-
going to start that?
So
Right after they go public.
we don't do that
Exactly.
specifically,
Need that
but let me
extra
tell you
money.
that what we do is every single week we give any excess food we have to food banks all over the country. And we do that every week, and we're giving millions of pounds of food to food banks around the country because of that. And actually one of the nice things that we offer is we're offering, because our menus change every week, if we ever have a little bit of excess, it's obviously way less than a grocery store has, but we're actually delivering farm fresh ingredients to these folks rather than like expired food from a grocery store. So that's really nice. And also every single year, what we do around Thanksgiving is we do a Thanksgiving food drive where we and our customers donate complete Blue Apron Thanksgiving experiences to folks all over the country. So not only do they get food like food bank food, but they can cook an incredible Thanksgiving meal with their families in their kitchens at home and have that sense of accomplishment and that family experience that you would want someone to have on
Matt and Jason, anything on what you're doing for food insecurity or helping people eat, differently, or do you want to touch
It's
that?
tricky because we don't actually touch inventory.
Right.
So we really help restaurants, and they procure the
Yeah.
food, prepare, and deliver it. But we are working with restaurants to figure out how to reduce the food waste
Yeah.
because there is so much food waste at restaurants, and there's a bunch of tax incentives for them to donate that. But from a restaurant's perspective, it's just a lot of work.
Right.
But on food safety, it's a huge topic. And so in the New York market, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs who are making and curating artisan foods, but they have no food safety experience. And so a lot of what we do is we really encourage, particularly for the Food Kick, a lot of young producers of food, but we have a food safety team that goes in and makes sure that they're set up properly. We'll do audits and we'll teach them how to do food safety because they can't sell through us unless they have those practices.
And do you donate food, excess food anywhere to?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, our model, because we're at one location versus a ton of stores, we have a city harvest truck parked every single day inside our stuff, so everything that is waste will go to.
Okay, we got one more question. I want it to be a good one. Take us out. No Murray's Cheese questions. All right, why don't you two guys fight it out?
So with your guys' incredible growth and your focus on the food system, the organic and sustainable food is in basically a short supply. What are the components of that are the biggest gap for you? Where do you see the biggest need for increasing supply?
So what should people be growing and producing for these guys, right? What do you, in terms of the organic and sustainable?
Well, we've seen it's on the protein side is actually one of the most difficult sides. You talk about grass-fed, antibiotic-free. There's a huge demand, but it's much more expensive for the farms. And so the catch-22 is, do you grow it, and then how do you actually get it sold? It's a lot of farms that may be good at growing, but they don't have a marketing arm to actually get it through distribution. So we really think it's our obligation to see that demand from the side, and then again commit to those practices to the farm, so they're kind of already pre-sold to go into that.
Yeah, I mean, we agree. It's beef is a big pain point in terms of just natural, hormone-free, antibiotic-free beef. It's kind of a small market today. Grass-fed, another example of that. And just organic vegetables too. I mean, the market for organics in aggregate isn't gigantic, and for specific kinds of vegetables, very, very small. And so, building those relationships with suppliers has been a really key part of what we do. And we think of ourselves as producing ingredients in our supply chain. We are growing ingredients partly because it helps us create positive change, but also partly because we need to create the supply of the kind of food that we want to serve to our customers. And so, getting deeper into the supply chain for us has been really important because you're right, there are a lot of key parts of it that are not gigantic markets today. And a company that wants to do that nationally and cost effectively needs to be producing that stuff.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.